Professor Linda Mëniku. I apologize. A member of the Linguistics Department at Tirana University in Albania, which specializes in discourse analysis, text linguistics, Albanian as a foreign language, and media discourse. And she's also a professor at, she's also taught Albanian courses at Arizona State University here in the US. Professor, your talk is entitled Personal Names and Socio-Political Changes, a Study of Naming Trends in the Capital of Albania, Tirana, 1907 to 2017. Professor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So names can reflect important social structures, and through the study of this material, we can better understand what's of the historical material, we can better understand what is going on in the present. Therefore, we analyze naming patterns as a product of religious, political, and historical changes in Albania, more specifically in Tirana, the capital of Albania. We give an overview of the name-giving traditions in Tirana and in Albania in different periods, focusing mostly on the top 5 names for a period of over a century, 1907 2017. In socio-nomastic studies on personal names, statistical data of names is often used. This study is based on the data published by the Institute of Statistics of Albania, instat.gov.al, for the top 5 names per year. And this is the link, and this is the research everyone can do online. So the historical timeline from antiquity to 1907. Why this historical timeline? 1907, the first data about top names from the Institute of Statistics of Albania until Tirana becomes the capital of Albania. 1920 to 1927 are the first years of the capital and the early years of the Republic. 1928, 1938, Albanian Kingdom. 1939, 1944, Second World War. 1945, 1960, first years of the communist government up to the break with the Soviet Union. 1961, 1967, breakup with the Soviet Union, and Albania self-declared the first atheist state in the world. 1968 to 1975, that is up to the break with China, that actually until 1978, and until 1985, break with China until the death of Enver Hoxha, the Albanian dictator. In 1986, 1990 is the last years of communism. 1991, 2017, fall of communism, dictatorship, and transition to democracy. Albanian antiquity to 1907, according to Robert Olsi, one of the best Albanian scholars, foreign scholars actually on Albania. Geographically, Albania has always been at the crossroads of empires and civilizations, even though it has often been isolated from the mainstream of European history. For centuries in ancient times, it formed the political, military, and cultural border between East and West, between the Roman Empire of the Western Mediterranean, including much of the Northern Balkans, and the Greek Empire of the Eastern Mediterranean, including the Southern Balkans. In the Middle Ages, Albania was once again a buffer zone, this time between Catholic Italy and the Byzantine Greek Empire. Later, after its definitive conquest by the Ottoman Empire in the 15th century, it formed a bridgehead between Christian Europe and the Islamic Orient. Different layers of Albanian history are reflected in onomastic. According to Kostalar et al., the names of Albanians have been formed layer by layer since ancient times to the present day. In general, people's names are derived from words of the general lexicon of the language. The fund of personal names used in our country consists of 2 large groups: name of local origin, Albanian, Illyrian; names of foreign origin, secular and religious. In the ancient period, the current territory of Albania was inhabited by the Illyrians. According to Albanian archaeologist Vanjel Toci, we see that Illyrian onomastic discovered in Albania makes up almost 1/5 of the total Illyrian onomastic found. This density of names is meaningful considering the limited size of our country's territory. After the defeat of the Illyrian king Gentius in 168 AD, Albania became part of the Roman province of Illyricum. Christianity was spreading from the Roman province of Palestine throughout the empire. According to Bidolari, the early Paleo-Christian names that began to enter with the Christianization of our lands in the 2nd century AD constitute the first foreign layer in the Albanian anthroponymic system. that caused the initial break in a previously semantically and ethnically motivated naming paradigm. The repertoire of these names, very strictly codified by the Catholic Church, is today preserved in the Catholic areas in northern Albania. Names like John, Jean, George, Jock, Palov, Fran, Zef replaced the original layer of local names and were used for centuries to strict canons of the church that didn't all had pagan names. The Ottoman Empire ruled in Albania for 5 centuries until 1912. During this period, many Albanians converted to Islam. According to the statistics of General Council of Brussels and Thessaloniki in 1888, the religious makeup of Albania was majority Muslims. The beginning of the 20th century, 70% of Albanians were Muslims, 20% were Orthodox Catholics, about 10% of the population. The conquest of Albanian land by Ottomans, and especially the Islamization of most Albanians, superimposed a new repertoire of names, that of Oriental names, Persian, Arabic, Turkish, of the Albanian anthroponymics fonts. These names, regardless of their origin, Persian and Arabic, entered and were used by Albanians in their Turkish form. Albania was part of the Ottoman Empire for 5 centuries until 1912. During the 30s and 40s, we have the Albanian National Awakening and movement. And in a previous study, we concluded that Albanian sense of belonging to the same ethnic group as descendants of one of the oldest populations of the Balkan Peninsula can be proven through the relationship that Albanians have with the name Illyrian, Ilir, and other Illyrian names. According to the study, based on the data from the list of the voters, the name Ilir has been used in Albania since the late 19th century, along with the names of the Illyrian king, of the name of the Illyrian king Agron. This is the timeline of Albanian history, 1907-1920, in Tirana's history. The independence of Albania was declared in 1912. In 1905, Tirana's population was 12,000 people. And on February 9th, 1920, Tirana became the provisional capital of Albania. Now, this is the list of the names for Tirana and Albania. In red color, you have the names that are of Albanian origin, and all the others are foreign names. So this data gives also important information about the religious affiliation of Albanians. The table 1 shows that the list of top 5 names during 1907-1920 period has a predominance of names borrowed from Arabic and Turkish, mainly Muslim names, both national level as well as for Tirana. At national level, the predominant Muslim names are Fatima, Jamila, Hawa, Hayriye, etc. The most used of Muslim name during this period is Fatima. For Tirana, the most predominant Muslim names are Samiya, Hayriye, Sübe, Hatice, and the most used Muslim name during this period is Saniya. Female names of Arabic origin are used in their Turkish form, Hatice or Jamila. In Turkish, all female names end in ye, and in Albanian, these names take an ending, as we can see, Fatima, Hamida, etc. As we mentioned in the beginning of the 19th century, Albania had a percentage of Orthodox and Catholics. So Marie is also in the top list of the names for this period, which is a name mostly used by both the Christian communities in Albania. And the names used only by Orthodox community is Kocho, Frosina, and for the male, Peter and David. For Tirana, we have these names for the Orthodox community, Theodor, Timi, Vitori, and Lena, and for the Catholic community, Brena. 2 other foreign non-religious names included in the top 5 lists for this period are the name Dafina, Laurel, and Selvi, Cyprus. Even while Albania was still under the Ottoman Empire, Albanian names were in use. The first of the top 5 names in 1907, 1908, for Albania were the names Vera, Samar, and Aphrodita, and Agim, that is Dawn. The female name Dile, which is very often related to the word Diel, son in Albanian, is also in the top 5 names. Now, these are the top 5 names for Tirana, and we, along with the names Dile and Dila that are related to the Albanian word for son, we have a beautiful name that entered the top list in 1911, 1912, in the period when Albania declared the independence, and this is the name Driçim, that means enlightenment. This is the timeline of historical development in Albania, 1921, 1928. For Tirana, we have the opening of different schools, and also the Muslim community of Albania headquartered in Tirana. The Bektashi ordered moved its headquarters in Tirana. And during this period, we have the strong influence of Italy actually in Albania. Now, this is the list of the top 5 names for this period for Tirana and Albania. In red, again, the Albanian names. According to the census of 1923, which is the first census for Albania, approximately 68.5% of Albanians identify themselves as Muslims, and we have 20% Christian Orthodox and 10.5% as Catholics. In 1927, the total population was around 800,000, and 67.6% were Muslim, and almost the same percentage as in 1923 are Orthodox. We see a few numbers of individuals that belong to the Jewish community. We can write another paper about the increase of the Jewish population in Albania during this year, but this is not topic of our research. So the top 5, according to the census of 1923, Albania had a population of 11,000 people. The top 5 names for this period are of Turkish and Arabic origin. For Albania, the top name is Fatime, and it is well known that the names of the family members of Prophet Muhammad are widely used among Muslims. In Islamic tradition, the girls are named after the daughters of Prophet Muhammad, his wife, or his disciples. In a previous study, we have observed that the Prophet Muhammad daughter's name, Fatime, is the most used Muslim name in Albania. For Tirana, the most used Muslim name for this time is Sabria. During 1938, Albania became a kingdom under the governance of the King Zog. We have an increase of the number of the population in Albania from Albanians who lived abroad and were forced to leave their own houses and come to Albania. They were considered the muhajirs. According to the statistics, in 1939, we have 35,000 people living in Albania, 84% Muslim, 10% Orthodox, and 6% Catholic. Again, this is the list of the top 5 names for this period. We read Albanian names. What is the situation? Again, Arabic and Turkish names are predominant during this period, but we see an interest in Albanian names, Bukurie, which means beauty, Bayame, that is almond. There is also in use the name Skander, which is of religious origin, but actually it refers to the Turkish name of or Ottoman name of our national hero, Gheg Reader. So it might well be that this is the influence of his name. The same situation is on top list for Albania. Arabic and Turkish names are predominant, and the name beauty and happiness, Bukurie and Lumturie, enter the list of the top 5 names for Albania. 1939-1944, we have Albania is under the occupation. The Second World War started, and first Italy and then Germany invaded Albania. During this period, we have that during the period when Italy invaded Albania, we have an increase in Albanian names, the name Freedom, Liri, and Drita, Light, that are considered maybe related to the desire of Albanian people for more freedom and light. The same situation is in Tirana, and also during this period, we see the name Fatmira, that means put future fortune in Albania, is in use from the population of Tirana. 1945-1960, the first years of communism, with a lot of dramas and tragedies. A lot of Albanians had to leave the country. The tribunals began against thousands of war criminals. Tirana became as the center of Albania with the communist government, and also with the increased number of people living there because of all the institutions that were founded during this period. So according to the census, Albania still had a very small population, and Tirana had around 137,000 people during this period. Now, if you see the list, it's obvious that the increase in the number of Albanian names or names of Albanian origin in red again, and we notice a preference for Albanian names that carry an abstract meaning that expresses wish for a better life, a new dawn, more light, hope. unity, joy, and good faith. So again, the name Drita, light, it's used all over the country. Dawn, Agim, Orgazim, that means joy. The general attitude of the population was optimistic, and this is expressed also in the names for the capital of Albania, where we see the same situation. We still have names of Arabic, Turkish influence, the religious or Orthodox and Catholic, but we have an increase in the Albanian names related exactly to the desire of Albanians for a better life. 1961, 1967, Albania breaks up with Soviet Union, and it starts a new era for Albania, and we see all top 5 names for Tirana are actually of names of nouns of Albanian origin. So during even before the Cultural Revolution of 1967, actually following the Chinese Revolution, before Albania was self-proclaimed an atheist state, we see that the trend for religious names in the top 5 list began to decline in the beginning of the 60s, and the Christian names actually were not anymore in the top 5 names in Albania since 1951. Again, we have some cases of the name Fatima included in the top 5 names, but other than that, we have again the preference of Albanians for the names joy, good faith, hope, or the day is born, or the white faith, or flower of life. And the same situation is in Tirana, where we have no religious names at all. And again, we have the same list as for the whole Albania. We have to mention that in the top 5 list for Tirana, we still have the influence of the Russian names, Vladimir Lenin. So Vladimir was one of the top 5 names for Tirana. 1968, 1978, we have the worst period. Albania was self-declared an atheist country, and the war against the religious started. The population of Albania is still small, although we have an increase from the previous years. So this is the list for Tirana and Albania during this year. So there are no religious names anymore because it was not by law, but what was not allowed. It was prohibited to use religious names in Albania. So Albanian names continue to be the most popular names for newborn babies. We see names like Lindita, Mimosa, Shpresa. Albanian rivers, like names for Albanian rivers, make it to the top list, and also compound words that are related to the word born, Linda, that born in May, or born, the day is born. We see a foreign name, a name of foreign origin, Mirela, that makes it to top 5. Actually, it is because of an Albanian song for kids, the mistake of Mirela. The same situation is in Albania, and we see it in Tirana. In Tirana, actually, the name Mirela becomes famous right after the composer Alexander Lalo made this song public, and it is still today one of the best songs for kids in Albania. 1979, until the death of Enver Hoxha, Tirana's population reaches to 189,000 people. Hoxha dies in 1985 after being for several years very sick. So in 1982, the Dictionary of Personal Names in Albania was published by a group of prominent Albanian linguists, Kostalari et al. At this time, this dictionary was published. Albania was still a communist country, and the leading force was the Communist Party. Their influence on every part of life is made clear by the authors of this dictionary, that they say that their work was guided by the lessons of the party and Comrade Enver Hoxha to maintain the best national traditions and to further develop the cultural heritage of our nation in the new conditions of our socialist society. So they consider a number of names that are inappropriate for our time and our ideology, that should be out of use. And of course, these names are foreign names or religious names. And they kind of guide Albanians towards the names that are Albanian of Illyrian or Albanian. So, and because of this reason, in 1979, 1985, we have Albanian names like Aldila and Altin that are Illyrian names, and Blerina and Valbona and all these names. But we see also that we have a tendency for the foreign names. So how were allowed these names? I'm not sure, but based on my name is also Italian, Linda, although it has a meaning in Albanian. So I think when parents really insisted on giving these names in different areas, it was somehow possible. So Elton, maybe it was the influence of Elton John. And Erwin was also in the top list during this period. So 1986 and 1990s, after the death of Enver Hoxha, the communist government starts to make changes until 1990s, when after the visit of Javier Pérez de Cuellar, Secretary General of the United Nations in Albania, everything started to change. The population of Tirana reaches to 238,000 people, and Tirana became the scene and the stage of the protest against the communist regime. So very, very important. These are the names for Tirana and for Albania. In red, again, Albanian names, but you see that there are also some foreign names. What is the trend? Again, the names are related to the beautiful nature or to the weather phenomena like air mild and the wind of Mount Ionida related to Ionian Sea. And then we have also trend of giving Albanians the names of famous Albanian singers and actors. So Nertila becomes enters the top list for Tirana and Albania in 1985 after Nertila Koka, a singer, won the song festival, and also Batita Makoci, one of the best actors in Albania. Like many children were named after her because she was very prominent at the time. Same with the name Anisa, although is actually an old name in Albania and it is used widely. So transition was difficult. Thousands of Albanians left Albania. We were 4 million people back then, and we are around 2.5 million right now. So a lot of people have left the country. So this is the migration inside Tirana. Tirana is thought it's today the most populated city in Albania, and half of the population of the whole Albania is in Tirana. What is the situation during this period? You see very few Albanian names. All of the names are foreigners. So what happened during the years of transition, the restrictions of freedom of expression ended, and this influenced parent choices for the names of their children. After many years of repression, they were free to choose foreign names that were previously banned in Albania, and the popularity of foreign names continues even today. Albanian names start to decline since 1991. One of the most popular names in Albania and in Tirana is Angela, a female name of Latin origin that is very popular in Italy, but is also a song, so hard to know how it was influenced or where it was influenced for. The influence of famous people is strong in naming. For example, the biblical name Sarah entered the top 5. It might be because of Sarah Ferguson, who was famously married to the Prince Andrew, but also because of all the movies with Sarah as one of the characters. Maggie, a character from the movie The Thorn Burns, is also very popular in Tirana, starting from 1996, 7 years in the top. And then we have a new era after 2011, when TV Clan for the first time transmitted the first Turkish series, Gümüş. Now we are invaded by the Turkish series, and the name Ayla became immediately a popular name. Should I close it? Okay. So the name Ayla became a very popular name, and it's still one of the most famous names in Albania. So other names nowadays are Amelia, Noel, Joel, Clea, Clevis, as the general trends in the world. So continue with the conclusion. We can conclude that the naming practices and naming trends in Tirana, capital of Albania, reflect the different layers of historical, religious, and cultural events in Albania that have strongly influenced the naming patterns for Tirana since that period until today. And I'm not repeating what I said, but briefly, religious names until the end of the Second World War, and Albanian names after the communists took power, and foreign names after the Albanians changed the system and now live in a democratic system. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this compelling presentation. You have a wealth of data, like very well documented, historical timelines and everything else. While we're waiting for some questions for you, I have a question. What's your next step with your research?
Yeah. There is a lot actually. The Institute of Statistics, they have data for all the cities. So I would really very much try to write like papers on different like main cities, because writing papers about every city will be a little bit difficult because, we lack statistics in general. So it was very difficult, to find demographic statistic about Tirana. So I searched the archives and the books, and people were surprised that we don't have this. So imagine about small cities. So I would like to document like the trends, especially in cities like Shkodra in northern Albania, where the religious component is more obvious than in other cities. The distinction between Catholics and Muslims. It might be a controversial study, but I would like to continue with that. I also like to publish this paper because I think there is almost nothing done in that area. And of course, I'm not speaking about the name journal. I heard it yesterday, how difficult it is, but definitely I would like to publish something. So the onomastics data about Albania in general are lacking. So I would really like to make present to the world like the situation in Albania.
No, I commend you on your work. This is just really fascinating. It's so much of it, just wonderful. Questions for Professor Mëniku?
Thank you, Ernesto. I don't know if this is for me or for anyone else. I see a nice job here.
I think it was a direct message to you because I'm not seeing it here, but yes, really, yes, well done, well done. If I might ask one more question then. Yes. So you mentioned in modern times, let's call it that, you're seeing fewer religious names, fewer traditional names, and more like modern, like common, like actresses, actors, like things like that happening. Do you find, is there like a socioeconomic component to that? So are you seeing, like, dare I say, more families of more resources using certain types of names in comparison to others?
I think the unfortunately, and this is very unfortunate, Albanian parents do not see the future of their kids in Albania. So I think they're trying to give foreign names because they think in this way they will have better international exposure, I would say. Albanians, it will be very, very nice but it takes a lot of time and you need a group to work on this. Like you'll find Albanians whose grandparents were Muslim having a name Christina or Christy. So religion doesn't play a big role. Like the biblical name are typical in Albania because of the influence of foreign actors or sportists or anything. Is not a religious influence there. For example, there is an increase in Turkish names, and of course, it's not because of the religion, because these are not Turkish religious names, but because of the movies. So this is why I don't think Albanians see themselves in Albania. We have a strong wave of migration. The country is losing young people on a daily basis. So I wouldn't be surprised that Albania would be like statistically, the United Nations foresees the Albanian population around 500,000 in the next 30 years. So this might be one of the reasons.
Okay.
And also the lack of identity, which is not something I would like to say, but really we are losing it because also we didn't have this tradition of having grandparents' names and then parents' name and children. You see, grandparents had a religious name and then children had an Albanian name, and now their children have a foreign name. So I don't like to say these things, but this is what the data show.
Okay, thank you. I have two quick comments in maybe like 30 seconds, give or take, to respond. Professor Evans says the new foreign name I do not recognize is Clevis. Where is that name coming from?
Oh, actually, it's only Clevis. Good point. Actually, Clevis you will find also is an Illyrian name as well, and maybe it wasn't little. Yeah. So as you see, it's in red because I also try to point it. This actually is considered foreign, but actually very good point. This is of Illyrian origin. This is what we claim. So you'll find Clevis, many Albanians in abroad give this name to their children because they think this is Illyrian, but many Albanians in Albania think this is a foreign name. But you'll see it in the data as of Illyrian origin. But there is a question mark there, actually. Thank you for asking that question.
And then one last quick question for you. This from Anne. This work seemed to tie in with the previous presentation on the diffusion of popular international names. How is social media being used in Albania, and might that influence name choices? Like 20 seconds, if possible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, social media, whatever is in social media is like the famous actors, sportists, as I mentioned. This is. Albanians are on TikTok, and is very, very, is the same as in all other countries. But I would say mostly TV series nowadays are really influencing the new trend for names. Or I don't know how, like this Noel or Joel, like I don't understand how Albania and Ireland, for example, have the same trend in names. I wrote an article about this. And or Albanians in Italy and Albanians in Albania give the same foreign names to their children. So this is something that might be a good research topic.
Right, something else to work on. Thank you so much for your.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your wonderful comments.